This is a test. This station is conducting a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test.
We are here with the good news. I'm your host, Jason Finger, one of your hosts, and I'm here with my co-host, Kara Hayes, and of course, the good Reverend, the Reverend Doctor. And it has been a long time. Kara, I want to come to you first. It's been a while. How you doing?
I am doing all right. Can't complain. Started a new job, and yeah, life is good.
You mean being the co-host of the good news with the Reverend Doctor?
Oh, that's my other new job.
That you do not get paid for. Speaking of not getting paid, Reverend Doctor, you're also not getting paid.
What up?
How you doing, brother?
Man, it's great to be back here.
It's been a long time, and as far as not getting paid, neither am I, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here.
Hey, I like doing stuff and not getting paid for it.
I do too, apparently, because this is my third podcast of the day. Yeah.
Damn.
yeah. So, and that's not even going into production yet. So yeah, it's already been a long day, but it's been a fun day. It's been a good day. And speaking of good, the good news is back, guys. It's been about 6 months, I think.
It has.
Something like that.
It's been since, I think the last one was June.
Yes, so it's
Long time.
too long. Definitely, I personally have some issues going on. I know Mike Payne, the guy who runs the store, we have some stuff going on. But and I know we also have a lot going on. We have those pesky jobs and everything else going on.
Yeah,
and,
basically for the listeners, long story short is everybody was kind of having some either personal or professional things going on that we just sort of stepped away from and had a break for a little while. And for about the last 2 months, we've been talking to each other over Messenger and trying to say, hey, when do y'all want to do this? And it's really just been kind of a matter of when can all of us kind of get in the same room at the same time.
I kind of put it like herding cats in a way.
Very much so.
Yeah, because
Very
once
much
again,
so.
we're all busy. We all have, like I said, pesky days. I always call it the pesky day job, And that,
As disillusioning as that might be to hear that we're not just all here every day.
yeah,
ready to do this.
a little peek behind the curtain, Reverend. Where it's like, guess what? We all actually don't hang out every day. It'd be cool if we could. I wish we had those opportunities, but man,
Wouldn't that be just awesome if this was our job?
Oh, I would love that,
Yeah.
brother. I would love that so much, especially with the other, because just go ahead and put myself over some of the other stuff we're doing. The weekly wrestling wrap-up for any of you wrestling fans out there that you can hear on L-Town Radio, myself and Mike Payne, the Puds, we do the podcast as well. We have that going on. We have the podcast, obviously, with Jason and Mike that you guys can check out. A little lighter subject matter. We talk more about wrestling and movies and stuff like that. But today, Kara, we're actually going to just try to catch up with a lot that's been going on in the last 6 months. Guys, oh my God, we can't write this stuff. It's like a bad movie that's playing out.
Well, we were just talking about it out there before the show started, and we went on the air where we had talked about should we do a special topic? Should like we were doing in season 1, so to speak. But it's almost pointless to come in here and do a show, like I said, about Roswell or about some kind of special topic, because everything that's gone on in the world for the last 6 months, it's weirder than anything.
You can't write this stuff. Kara, what's I know you guys have got a flow of the chart. I'm kind of going here per usual, not knowing too much what's going on.
Seat of your pants.
You seat of my pants as per usual. And I don't get a chance to keep up with the news as much, guys, with doing the podcast and the job. And once again, I do a wrestling show. Ben, I know you're a wrestling fan. I watch at least 6 hours of wrestling a week, and I don't get it all in.
Jesus.
It almost becomes a job. I know Carrie, your husband, David Hayes, is co-host of This Is Work. I know he watches. Me and him talk sometimes, and we complain about all the pro wrestling on. So, man, it's hard to catch up with the news and the things that are the other worked entertainment, as I like to call it, the politics. Right.
Yeah.
Carrie, what's some of the stuff that's been going on this last 6 months that really catches your attention?
For me, I think the most interesting thing is the whole Epstein thing.
Yeah.
It was bound to come up first.
Let's go ahead and call it. Yeah.
That's
on my list.
That's kind of the biggest thing for me.
Reverend, I know that you have been very outspoken. We'll go ahead. Like I said, this show, we get into the controversial areas. We definitely speak our minds on this show. Hopefully, it doesn't cost anybody friends or jobs. You know.
Oh Lord, I hope my employer is not listening.
Mine too. Mine too. I usually tend to kind of glaze over this show, but I mean, I know Reverend, you've been very outspoken with your views on some of the quote unquote conspiracy theories as far as like pedophilia goes in Hollywood and in Washington as well. Pizzagate comes to mind. You know, I know that's definitely a hot topic, brother. That gets a lot of people, especially on certain political spectrums. That gets people pretty hot.
Well,
talk
you know,
about.
the thing about Pizzagate is it hasn't aged really well.
No, sir.
In hindsight, because the reality of it is way more mundane, I guess, than that.
Right. And like you just said, it didn't age well. In fact, when this whole Jeffrey Epstein stuff happened, I went on some on some YouTube videos that I'd watched where people were very, I guess, negative toward the concept of Pizzagate as far as people who maybe thought it could be something to it. Like, I was one of those people. I'll put it out there. I'll tell you straight up.
I was a hardcore about Pizzagate.
Yeah, you're one of the first people that actually introduced me to the concept of it, and then you start seeing the comments now, and most people were saying, hey, this has not aged well, especially with some of the stars and celebrities that were, you know, denouncing it. You know, once again, I've said it before and I'll say it again on this show, guys. I don't know what's going on out there. I'm not sitting here saying that I know more than anybody else. I'm not saying that I have inside information. I just know that when Pizzagate let's talk about it. I know when it first started coming out, I heard a lot about it from some of your stuff, Reverend, that I saw on Facebook, but I also heard about it on the Joe Rogan show. You know, I'm a fan, especially at that point, and he was talking about some things that was blowing my mind, and
more than DMT.
Believe it or not, he actually had Jamie look it up, and that's kind of a Joe Rogan insight. I don't know if you listen, Kara, or
not
much.
Regularly.
Yeah, that's kind of an inside thing. He brings up DMT a lot. He has an assistant named Jamie that he always has look stuff up. So that's kind of if you're familiar with the show, you'll get that.
Okay.
Just kind of put that out there for you. But yeah, I'm telling you, Reverend, what concerned me mostly with Pizzagate, and I want to get your take on this, wasn't necessarily what was going on with. Obviously, it's disturbing, and obviously, are you familiar with Pizzagate, Kara?
Yeah, because I was listening to something. I listened to a really large random amount of podcasts, and that was a point of discussion on one of them that they were talking about.
Okay.
You know, and from what I remember, it was people thought that there was sex trafficking happening in the basement of a pizza shop. Was it
Right.
in D.C. or something?
Yes.
Yeah. And then it turned out, somebody went in with a gun?
Yes.
And then
Somebody from North Carolina,
wasn't even a
actually.
basement.
Was it? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. The person that went in with the gun was actually a North Carolinian, and but yeah, there wasn't even a basement, so there was a lot of things that there, you know, a lot of what am I trying to say?
Misinformation?
Yeah, I guess, or some story.
Rumor.
Yeah. I'm trying. There's a word, man. And I'm not good. I'm not good with the vocabulary. That's why we have you here, Kara. But there was definitely some disconnections, I guess, going on. But there was also a lot of stuff going on that I thought was kind of sketchy and sounded a little shady. Reverend, do you want to talk a little bit about it? Maybe put some of your
well, a lot
opinions
of what it boiled down to is there were all these memos that were found, and that people were saying that if you look at code that intelligence has cracked that pedophiles use, like online or among themselves, that CP or cheese pizza is also code for child porn. It's a double phrase,
Right.
And all this stuff. It's pizza as double speak for other things, and so in all these memos that high up politicians were trading around with each other, they're either ordering a shitload of pizzas, or they're engaging in trading child porn or human trafficking.
Yes. The one thing that I looked at that, guys, and once, I want to put it out there again. I don't know. I'm not saying this stuff is legit. I just know it does sound somewhat sketchy to me, But as somebody who's smoked a lot of marijuana in their past and who's had a lot of, I guess, been in the drug circles for a lot of my youth coming up, and I no longer do that stuff, speaking in code is pretty damn common.
Of course.
Just for a quarter bag of brickweed. So if you're going into something...
Maui Wowie.
Yeah.
Tie stick. Reefer.
I mean, we would use codes just to buy bags of pot. So I understand that people would use codes for other things, especially when the FBI, had already kind of putting that stuff out there. There were certain symbols And that kind of caught my eye too. Like there was a pyramid, a certain kind of pyramid.
Yeah, it was an old like symbol that was affiliated with NAMBLA.
Right, right. And I also know that this one pizza place in particular had a band, and it consisted of some, I guess, some drag queens. I'm thinking it was something like that. But they actually used that symbol in their videos, and they were playing at this pizza parlor, which apparently was a family. But they had these pedophilia symbols and stuff in their videos, and they were also featured at this pizza shop.
Yeah.
And there's video going around. Somebody said something about everybody has their kinks. Somebody said like kids, and they were like, well, hey, you know, they kind of acknowledged it in this pizza place where this happens. I mean, just certain things like that, man. It's kind of hard to just say, oh, well, it's just coincidence. Or
well, the way I kind of look at it is that people were taking it as, you know, this be-all end-all of cracking pedophilia among the elite, but I think it ties in with NXIVM, it ties in with Epstein, with all of that. Like these are all just small segments of something way bigger. You have to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture.
Right. And you know, one thing I was going to bring up, and once again, you know, disclaimer, and I don't know, but it did seem like the left on the political spectrum really had a bad reaction to even remotely thinking that this stuff could possibly even remotely be somewhat legit.
I know, which is so odd to me, because everybody inherently knows that pedophilia takes place on every street,
Absolutely.
in every block, in every church, in every town.
Every small town, man. Even in Lincoln, where I'm from, you hear about it. I mean, I know when the internet first started becoming bigger, I guess I should say about 10, 15 years ago, and you would start reading about people in your community.
But somehow
but
somehow when you mention that it also goes on, you know, among Hollywood actors, among the people you vote for, among the British royal family, so on, people freak out.
Yeah, they think there's no way this could happen. But my biggest concern, well, obviously there's a lot of concern. I shouldn't maybe say my biggest concern. But one of my concerns with is how polarized and politically this thing gotten. Now, guys, I don't know. Once again, I'm just speculating here, but I would dare say that if it was a Trump person that was involved in this thing and not John Podesta, who was connected to the Clintons, I think we may have seen a different narrative.
Probably.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, if you look at the people that are being accused, it's on all party lines. I mean, it's not just Republicans or just Democrats. I mean, he was involved with everybody.
I know. It seems like people are really only able to think of, you know, this stuff in the way you phrase it, Cowboys versus Redskins terms. Like, they think that it has to run along party lines,
right,
which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, that blows my mind, and it was just so concerning to see certain. Once again, I mean, even when I'm reading this stuff and kind of looking into it, I'm like, you know, I don't know, and I still don't know. I don't know these things, but when I saw certain people who always tended to kind of toe the party line, just be 100%, and they all had the same talking point.
Yeah.
That concerned me, guys. And I think a lot of what's going on in the political realm today is what concerns me. It's not necessarily some of the division, but it's just how quickly people tend to follow those talking points and those party lines. We were talking a little earlier before we even hit record. If you're on this team, the Redskins or the Cowboys, right or the left, man, you got to toe those lines.
Yeah, you do.
Or you're the enemy. In other words, if you're like, well, I'm kind of centered, I kind of see this thing on the left, I kind of see this on the right. No, man. You're either 100% with us or you're 100% against us, and that really worries me. And I think this last 6 months, I've seen that escalate to something I would have never even considered to be possible. What do you guys think about that?
Well, the question that I had about Epstein all along is, and I think this is the main point that got skirted, because people were interested in looking at him just as this be-all, end-all of the story itself, when the way I look at it is that you had this guy who was basically like a globe-trotting pervert who was very rich. His fortune came from a really uncertain, sketchy place that, you know, I think they kind of alluded to that he did investing or what.
So interesting you say that. One of the podcasts I listened to, they did, I think, a 13 or 14 part forensic deconstruction of Epstein. And one of the ones because I'm behind the times and catching up on a lot of stuff, and they were talking about how he got his start. And it is very sketchy, because apparently, like, he got in with somebody at like Bear Stearns, and then somehow got him to give him the largest private residence in New York City. Like, it's like, what they say, seven stories tall, and it was insane. And then he got all this money, and they don't really, there's not really any clear idea of where it kind of came from, but it was all sketch.
Yeah, that's what he had. All these holdings. He had an island that basically he was someone who was friends with the elite from all corners and gave them a place to freely indulge in whatever they wanted.
Right.
And part of that, naturally, was that there were records kept of it. There were logs, and there were video, there were audio, all these people doing things. So when you step back and look at it, it's clear that what he was doing was, allowing people to do what they wanted for the purpose of blackmail. So the question naturally becomes, who was he working for?
Right. Which obviously, given the circumstances of the man's death, which, I mean, this is not even a good movie plot line.
No.
I mean, if somebody had wrote down this whole thing, a producer or a director would read it and say, nobody would believe this, man. This is so hokey.
Yeah.
So we have this guy who's connected to all these elites, Hollywood, as far as, and DC as well, who gets arrested, who hangs himself because the camera goes back. I mean, that's a bad movie.
Yeah.
That's lazy writing. That's what somebody would say in Hollywood is lazy writing, but that is exactly what we saw happen in real life.
Well, that's what they're trying to tell us happened.
Right.
And that's the thing. Oh, well, gosh, the camera just went out. We don't know how it happened. And somehow he just knew that the camera was out, so that's when he decided to hang himself.
Yeah.
In a room that was supposedly designed to prevent him from hanging himself.
When the guard fell asleep.
Oh, yeah, the guard, yes.
Once again, if you wrote that down in a movie and took that to a producer and like, no one will believe this,
You would be
man.
laughed
This is
out
the
of the
most
room.
hokey story that we could say. Nobody, I mean, it's ridiculous. But that's exactly what they're trying to give us because we know the man was murdered. We know this.
So who do you think he worked for, or who funded him?
Oh boy, I mean, that's the. Can I say the Illuminati?
Yes.
I'm being somewhat facetious with that. I don't know. I hate to say I think the Clintons were involved, but that's usually where I tend to go. I think
they were involved, but I think they were probably just being blackmailed themselves.
Obviously, I don't think they were I don't think it was the Clintons that were over this whole thing. I think they were a part of it.
Now, they may have been friendly with each other for years and years and years, but I think when you look at both him and the woman who was his madam, this Ghislaine Maxwell, am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Sir, yes.
That it seems to be pretty cut and clear that that there was Israeli Mossad going on
as well. Yeah,
it seems like it.
I totally, like I said, I didn't get as deep into it as that, but definitely is there higher powers at work here, people that got a lot of influence and a lot of power. Obviously, I mean, like I said, you don't kill a man because he was going to talk. I mean that's what I'm assuming, that this man was going to sing like a bird.
Yeah,
put it all out there. Why not? You have nothing to lose at this point.
Well, he'd already gotten that sweetheart deal from the first time he was quote unquote convicted.
Which is, oh my God.
Let's talk about that, man, because I wasn't even aware of that until all this. And once again, I don't follow the news as closely as I should, and I wasn't even aware of that until all this was going on. I'm like, wait a minute, he's already been busted for this?
Yeah.
And already was out? So y'all talk about that. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can sort of hit the high points. Basically, he was convicted, and I say that with quotes, but he was basically given this sweetheart deal where it was 13 months of quote unquote prison,
Right.
where he could come and go as he pleased, didn't have to, really be monitored, and he
Right.
could still do whatever it is that he wanted. And
Prison.
yeah, exactly.
Quote unquote, yeah.
Exactly. But, yet you have people who, I don't know, have a bag of weed and they'll get, 5 years in prison.
People are
or
still in
10
prison
or
now.
whatever.
Yeah, for 20 years.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
And I mean, that was one thing, this last 6 months. I think obviously there's been a lot going on, and we are going to try to catch up.
There has been a lot going on, and a lot of these stories that kind of seem unrelated, I think, in some ways tie to it. Like, the whole story of they're calling it Megxit, like of Meghan Markle leaving the royal family with Prince Harry.
Yeah.
Do you guys get the vibe that a lot of that is just to create some cover story to keep the heat off Prince Andrew from his ties to Epstein?
I mean,
because I've had that thought.
I mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, they do protect their own. Sure. I mean, they are royals. And the episode I was actually listening to coming up here was the one on Prince Andrew. And, I knew that he was involved, or, there was talk that he was involved.
I know his name had come up.
But they were playing clips of the interview that the BBC did with him. And I swear, I mean, they were all, I mean, I don't want to say they were making fun of him, but I mean, they were just like, how fucking stupid are you to think that by saying, like, he actually had this whole thing about he couldn't have been the person that this girl danced with at a club because at the time he physically could not sweat. Exactly. And I mean, like, honestly, if I was the BBC reporter,
how did that even go out? Yeah.
Okay, so this is my take, and I'm gonna go ahead and just lay this all out. I don't know jack shit about the inner workings of the royal family really any more than anybody else in America really does.
Right.
The little tiny bit that I know, or that I could boil down a conversation into maybe a minute as to this story, is I've always got the impression that out of these two sons, William and Harry, that William was the one who was always a lot closer with, his father Charles and his grandmother, right. But Harry was the one who was always a lot closer with Diana.
Yeah,
and that I think that her death left a really bad taste in his mouth towards the media, the paparazzi, right. And so on. So this story, when you look at it, where this guy, he's really not even in line or in the conversation as to the throne. He's like, what, like the 10th in line?
Yeah, right.
Or something like way down the list, and it's just him and his, someone who never really cared for the spotlight in the first place stepping away, but they're keeping their money, they're keeping titles and all this stuff. It seems like such a goofy non-story. Right? And I just get the air that this is something totally manufactured by the royal family to take the press off of Andrew.
Yeah.
And do you think it's also possible, that they're almost in a way doing this just in case shit goes south, and, maybe they can sort of distance themselves so down the road, I mean, who knows, what could come of this, if anything, probably nothing. Maybe they're trying to distance themselves from that aspect of it so that they stay pure to a point.
Maybe.
Sure.
Well, how funny would it be? I was joking with this with a friend not long ago about how for 250 years we've dreamed of putting an American insider to marry into the royal family to wreck it from the inside ever since the Revolutionary War.
Right.
And I don't know if she is, but she seems to be doing a damn good job.
I want to say if
that's
not,
what's going on.
If not, brother, then they really hit the jackpot.
Wow.
Well, now, going back to the prince saying he's not able to sweat, would this be a good time to bring in the reptilian aspect into the royal family?
Oh, my God.
Maybe we should do that for another episode.
Oh, my God.
Maybe another episode. As soon as you said he can't sweat, I'm like, well, reptiles don't sweat. Everybody knows that. Once again, we'll bring that one up later on, man. That
does sound like a fun episode.
Yeah, that does. I will definitely want to be a part of that one.
That sounds fun. Put that on the list.
Yes, absolutely. Well, guys, what's some other, obviously the Epstein thing, I think, to me, was just the biggest. Also, not only was it one of the biggest, I guess, scandals, one of the biggest conspiracies, quote unquote, but I think it was just one of the most in your face, like, hey, there's stuff going on. You don't know about this stuff. I mean, we just witnessed it in real time. I mean, everybody knows Epstein didn't kill himself. I mean, it's the most popular meme that we've maybe ever had. I mean, everybody's memeing this stuff. I mean, even Ricky Guevara.
Even more than JFK, even more than 9/11, even more than anything. This is the one where even the biggest normie you'll ever met says this is stupid.
Yeah, we all know that episode. Like I said, when it's Ricky Gervais, what is it?
Gervais.
Ricky Gervais. Oh, yes.
I mean, even he was up here saying Epstein didn't kill himself, and even he has some stuff to say about some of this.
And his speech was scripted by the network. He was reading off a teleprompter.
Yes, man. It's not like any of this stuff was just.
Yeah, it's not. It's not like he was some dude like shooting from the hip or anything, trying to wake the public up. This was written by a network. For him.
Man. This was.
It's a joke at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's become a meme. It's a meme within itself. And like I said, to me, that was the biggest cause. I know when his death was reported, I'm like, once again, I said it earlier, I say it again, not even a bad movie would do this.
Yeah.
I mean, if a TV show or something did this, they'd be canceled. I mean, nobody's gonna believe it. I mean, I just keep going back to that it's so blatant in your face that hey,
we jumped the shark with this one.
Amen. Hey,
Yes.
Reverend, that is a great analogy, and we have, man. I mean, the media's jumped the shark now. I mean, nothing has ever been in your face like this. I mean, anyway. So, guys, that's just one of the tip of the iceberg. I want to say, I know, even going into Pizzagate, because even before we started recording the show today, I was like, oh, do I want to bring that up? Because that's something that has interested me. And I know that's, Reverend, I know that's something that you've definitely... But I also know that one just causes so much controversy. And I'll bring it up to some of my like real hardcore left liberal friends. And we can agree on a lot of stuff. I tend to, Kara, I know we were talking before the show about our political leanings. And I'm kind of like, not to put your stuff out there, but I'm kind of I consider myself somewhat centrist, somewhat liberal even. I believe in universal health care, and I also believe in the Second Amendment. I think you go shoot each other and then go get patched up. I mean, if you make it, hey, man, go get yourself fixed up and try it again. I mean, I do look at it like that.
So now we can get really controversial and talk about how World War III came and went in a day.
In a day, brother.
In a day.
Okay. I want to put something else out there. I do tend to pick on the quote-unquote left a little bit heavier than I do the right. I do.
Well, you kind of have to. They bring it on themselves right now.
They really do.
Not in general or even politically, but at this particular juncture in history,
they're jumping the shark.
Yeah.
They're jumping the shark, and once again, this isn't the good news where we shit all over the left. No, man, because I think there's a lot of good things. I consider myself a liberal. Healthcare is one of the big ones. That I definitely kind of hold to. Obviously, discrimination, civil rights things of this nature. Obviously, I think at this point, man, everybody's pretty much on board.
We were talking about that not long ago. I know you said that you lean fiscally right and socially left. I'm kind of a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I lean socially right as far as things like gun control and so on,
right.
But fiscally I tend to lean a little bit lefter as far as I don't really care for the corporations,
right.
all the love they get for the military industrial complex and for a lot of the catering to the racial right, I guess.
You're right.
But generally, all of us in this room don't really have any particular group or candidates or any voting block, even if voting was real.
Yeah, right. It's all a word.
Just to throw that out there. But it just
got real controversial.
Yeah, even if it was, that we can even identify with at this moment in time.
No, I'm definitely one of those people. I do vote. I do still kind of hold on to the I guess the myth that my vote counts. I'm still holding on dear and true to it. But I'm definitely one of those people that you have to convince me, man. I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'm not saying I will. Mm-hmm. There's nobody on the left that I've seen yet that's really... I do like Andrew Yang. I will say. If all the candidates I've heard and listened to, I do like Yang. I will put that much out there. But, kind of going back to the Pizzagate thing, and then we'll bring it all back full circle. I know I've talked to friends of mine who are on the left. Healthcare will come up, gun control. I'm not for gun control. I'm like, hey man, you got let them blaze, man. I mean, I'm just one of those guys. I'm from the country. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But I'll talk to my liberal friends, and they'll be like, yeah, I could see that Second Amendment, that, this and that, but I disagree. As soon as Pizzagate comes up, man, hard left. I mean, I'm talking hit the brakes. That's bullshit. That's the most retarded shit I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, wow, whoa, is it really?
Imagine
I don't know
how,
why, man. That's my thing. I just don't understand why it's such a hard thing to grasp that maybe.
I mean, imagine how brainwashed you have to be to where you would fight or distance yourselves from your friends or family over your favorite billionaire.
Dude.
how brainwashed you have to
Thank
be.
you.
And it
Thank
seems
you.
like everybody is now.
It seems like, yeah, and it's not, and I know I do pick on the left a little bit. Like I said, it kind of make it a little easier. If they learn to meme, I think I'd take it a little easier on them. But the right, man, the hardcore right's the same way.
Why do you think the left can't meme?
I think because they don't have a sense of humor. I think they take everything so seriously.
I think it's even more simple than that. I think it's because every major right argument is something that you can condense down to a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
And that lends itself really well to memes.
To memes,
and
yeah.
all leftist arguments are like a damn house of cards.
Yes, man, and they're long, man. They're thesis.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's. You're right. I don't know what that says about the right, though. What's that really say when most of your, theories and most of your points can be put on a bumper sticker?
Yeah, you can.
That's not the best, man.
You can glean a lot from that.
Yeah, like I said, that's not the best side either. Really. But I do tend to lean, like I said, I lean culturally maybe a little bit to the right cause of my Second Amendment and stuff like that. But really, man, if you list the stuff that I believe in and my viewpoints, man, they go pretty hard left. They really do. But there's just something about. It seems like the left hits a wall. There's almost like a brick wall that they just hit, and there's no getting past that wall. No pun intended for the wall being built. Well,
one thing I'll say about that is there's something that's really interesting about the nature of politics in this country itself, because there's one thing that political theorists on the geopolitical level will tell you is that when you have the underclass, meaning the poor or the middle class, siding with rich right-wing billionaires, that means one thing. And you know what that is? It's that the left has completely and utterly fucked up.
Well,
because the left is supposed to be the party of the working class.
And they used to be.
And that when the underclass is siding with right-wing billionaires, it means that the left has jumped the shark and alienated the public.
Yeah, and I think it's just being so far to the left on certain things. Once again, and I think there's that all or nothing approach. In other words, I believe in the Second Amendment. Well, you're a Nazi. Well, I believe in some border control. Well, you're a Nazi. Mm-hmm. Everything boils down to you're a racist or a bigot. I believe there's two genders. Call me crazy. Mm-hmm. Do what you want to. Be you. I don't care. Well, you're a bigot. Well, what the hell, man? I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's no discussion. It's like you're either 100% with us or you're 100% against us. I mean, even if you're centered now, I mean, you see a lot of negativity towards centered people. Mm-hmm. I see, like on Reddit, I go on there and it's like when you start polarizing yourself so far to one side, and especially under the guise of self-righteousness, I tend to be a little leery of that too. Once again, man, I'm not trying to just shit on the left. I'm really not, because like I said, I consider myself to be a liberal.
So, let's go back to the World War III in just a minute. The question
I want to go for a minute.
Yeah, the question I want to go to that kind of bleeds into what you were just talking about is, let's spend just a minute or two on this election that's going on right now. So out of this batch of politicians, which I haven't followed it closely at all, but out of this group that's running for office right now, what do you think of these?
Carol, I know, once again, I know we want to be cool. We don't want to put a whole lot out here for everyone, What's your take? Because I feel like I haven't brought you in here. Well, what do you think about that question?
So I do agree with you. I think Andrew Yang has some pretty good ideas. Like I could see maybe voting.
Are you Yang Gang?
Honestly, I'm not in anybody's camp right now, because I don't think anybody has really impressed me enough to go, okay, yeah, I'm with you.
Well, this is my hot take, is that out of the group that's running, it seems like the Democratic Party really doesn't have their finger on the pulse of the American people, because out of everybody who's running for office this time, there's really only two. No, there's really three that I can say I even understand their appeal. Like, I understand why Trump voters like Trump.
Sure.
I can understand why Bernie bros like Bernie.
I do too.
And this other girl who's running, I can understand why libertarians like Tulsi.
Tulsi, yeah.
And so but see, for me to grasp a politician, I have to understand what their appeal is,
right,
and why people like them. Everybody else, I can't even understand the appeal. No. Like, I can't even fathom what type of person gets excited about Joe Biden
or Elizabeth Warren.
Yes,
it's like, who? I mean,
or Mayor Pete. Like, I mean, I can't.
yeah.
Like, these people just all seem like such Beltway establishment losers. Like, I can't fathom who would get excited over them.
And I tend to agree with what both you guys are saying. For one, I get why people like Trump. I mean, I know I don't want to put myself out there and get, death threats, or because, boy, I mean, there's a lot of people out there, if you say you even kind of like Trump, man, you're marked. I mean, and they will come after you. The peaceful and tolerant left, brother, will burn your house down. They will, man. I mean, I'm not trying, I'm just being honest, but I do see, because Trump definitely has that fuck you attitude, and a lot of people like that, and they like that in a leader. I tend to kind of like that in a leader, to be completely honest with you, man. I liked Obama. I was an Obama fan, but sometimes I felt Obama was a little soft, man. I really did. I don't think that with Trump. I think he's a fucking egomaniac, man, that could probably blow up the entire world without a second's hesitation, which is what would probably keep me from voting for him. I just can't see that man having the nuclear codes, though. I mean, he scares me. And that's my biggest reason why I didn't vote for him last time, and I highly doubt I'll vote for him this time. He just scares anybody.
He's too flippant.
Yes,
it's
man.
just like,
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. I mean, he gives too less of a fuck.
Yeah.
I like that to a degree, but he's got the nuclear codes, and I keep going back to that. That anybody that calls himself a stable genius on Twitter, I thought that was a joke, man. When I read that, I was like, oh, okay, somebody's fucking with Trump. That's funny. That's really good. Oh, fuck, it's him. My humor and my laughter went to Terra. I was like, he could literally bomb California. I mean, he could. I mean, and he might. So I don't know, man, if he's even on my radar. As far as the Democrats go, once again, I think both you guys were saying it very well. Reverend, you were bringing up, it's like, who are these people? What's their appeal? Andrew Yang is the only one that remotely is on my radar right now. And the reason is, I saw him on the Rogan show, Joe Rogan. I watched him. I was like, I'll watch him for about 10 or 15 minutes. I just want to hear what this guy says. I watched his entire interview. He captivated me. He was talking about universal basic income, something that I would never believed in. He made me a believer. Mm-hmm. He did. He actually, he was like, here are the statistics, here are the facts and the figures, here's the math. I'm a math person. To hear a candidate actually say facts and figures, hell, man, that'll get my vote right there.
Well, that's just it, because mostly it's rhetoric.
It's exactly.
It's platitudes.
It's arguing on emotion.
Do this for you.
Yes.
Yeah, and see, I'm with you.
Yes.
I very much like facts and figures and
numbers. Numbers don't lie, man.
This is what I want to do, and here's why I want to do it, and here's what we can do.
You just said it right there, Kara. This is why. This isn't just like, I want to give everybody $1,000 a month. He does want to do that, but then he says, but here's why. Yeah. And he goes into automation being the number one thing, and he's right, man. That is honest to God. He was like, and if corporations are automating, then they should have to pay out the same amount of money that they would pay out for employees to help people out. It makes sense, because if you automate, you're going to have less breakdowns, you're going to have less defaults. Machines don't call out. You're still going to do better for your business if you automate, but that doesn't mean you should keep all that money in your pocket, because people need to eat.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, man, I'm not as libertarian on the economy as you may think. I get that, man. But yeah, once again, you got Warren. I mean, come on, she's a joke, man. I mean, she lied about her heritage to get through school. Mm-hmm. I think you put up a meme. Was it like they were saying like it was the first woman of color?
Yeah. On their staff.
Yeah. And it was Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? That's a joke. Trump will eat her for lunch, man.
Well, what was it like when Trump memed her into taking a DNA test to prove her heritage?
Yeah.
Like I'm more black than she is Native American.
Come on, man. And he's fucking right, dude. Yeah. I mean, once again, you got to remember, Trump is not your everyday politician, man. He will eat some of these people and chew them up and spit them out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't play by the rules. Well, it's like everybody talks about Bernie, and I think Bernie's sincere, and I think Bernie's supporters are sincere. I'm not a fan of Bernie per se. I think he lives in La La Land. A lot of times when I hear Bernie talk, the first thing I think is, okay, boomer. I mean, seriously, that's the big thing now. Okay, boomer. Well, hell, there he is.
Well, his appeal makes total sense when you consider the his demographic and the people who like him, because he's almost like this, not millennials, Generation Z, I guess, or millennials too. But,
sure.
But yeah, this group who are kind of like, they hate their parents, and you've got grandpa saying, hey, don't worry, I'll pay your rent.
Yeah, right. Or get out there and hit the pavement and get a job like I did. It's not the same environment as it was back in grandpa's time.
Yeah, I totally understand his appeal and why people like him. And like I said, I also completely understand Trump's appeal to Trump voters.
Sure.
And I understand why libertarians like Tulsi, but all of the others I can't really grasp.
No. And I got to watch a little bit of Tulsi on Rogan. Good Lord, man, that's probably telling a lot about.
I listened to her. I listened to her interview too.
It was good.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was
Now
really
I want to
good.
go and listen to
You
them.
should.
So
I highly suggest both. Yang and Bernie was on there as well, and Bernie had a great interview as well. Bernie loses me on his gun control argument. So did Yang. That was one thing with Yang. His gun control is a little bit like. I'm very, very to the right on that. I just am. I think it's what keeps us from breaking down into survival of the fittest. Law of the jungle per se, man. I think it's having a gun. It's an equalizer.
Right.
It's no great equalizer than a bullet. And as Bernie said, 99.9% of gun owners are good, law-abiding people. So why shit on them?
So let's circle back because we're going to get hella controversial right now. Let's talk
More
about
than Pizzagate.
Let's talk about World War III.
Oh boy, man! I blinked and missed it, brother.
I slept through it. I'll be
You
honest.
sleep through it?
I did. I slept through it. I remember the lead up, and then all of a sudden I didn't hear anything about it, and I never really noticed. I never heard anything about it. So school me.
It was the
Okay.
first war that was fought with memes instead
Yes.
of bombs.
And Trump being the meme king, I guess won. It was once again, man. I anything that makes the left anti-war again, I'm cool with, because they were a little bit of some saber rattling going on with the whole Ukrainian thing and the whole Russia thing. There's still a lot of Russia stuff going on.
Well, so basically, we killed one of the top generals
Right.
of Iran. It was General Qasem Soleimani, and it wasn't the Revolutionary Guard. He was like the leader of the Al-Quds Brigade, I believe, which is one of their top militaries. And this guy seemed like he was pretty popular among the people, or seemed like it. And of course, there's some segments that are outspoken from within the country who are against him.
Sure.
But by all accounts of things coming out, it seemed like he was more popular than the leadership cast, which again may or may not say much.
Right.
When you have a propaganda state. But there was all this propaganda coming out of Washington about how this man is a terrorist and a murderer, which when I heard that, I thought that was another jump the shark moment, because we're talking about a 4-star general of a sovereign state.
Correct.
When you call someone like that a terrorist and a murderer, you really cheapen what both those terms mean.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It just I don't know. That just seemed like a real jump the shark moment to me.
Kind of reaching there. Well, like you said, it's a sovereign nation here. I mean, that's like saying that our people are terrorists and
yeah, that's
criminals.
like if you were talking about MacArthur or Patton or
Yes,
somebody.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
technically, maybe our enemies could technically say they
From
were
their
murderers or terrorists, but that cheapens the term so much. It's such media spin.
Right. It's propaganda.
Yeah,
once again, yeah.
it's just silly.
But my whole thing was, I mean, it's like, we were just saying it was over so fast. I mean, I really thought that this was it. This is Iran. This was a big deal. But it just kind of went away. It just kind of...
Yeah, it fizzled and nothing happened.
See, this is one of those things that makes me... I think I used this term before we hit record. I'm Trump polar. There's days where I'm like, oh my God, this guy is terrible. He's the worst shit that's ever happened to the country. And there's other days like, hey man, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of those moments where I didn't know how to feel about it, because he went in, he did the hard thing. He
Everybody thought they were getting drafted.
dude, I've never seen such a quote-unquote suicidal, generation. It always talks about, I just wish I could die, this and that, going from, oh, shit, I don't want to go to war, like overnight, man. I'm glad to see once again that people wanted to live again. That was pretty cool. I mean, they actually, Selective Service said their website went down because people were going on to see what the rules were to be drafted.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah, they crashed the system. People were going on there scared. But once
Well,
again...
and for a generation where so many people have criminal records or overweight
Yeah.
or obese,
There's nobody
hooked on Xanax, I'm like, none of your asses are getting drafted.
No, man, don't worry about it. But I did see somebody mention that. It's like, this generation seems to be so depressed, and you see so many memes and so many things like, I just wish I could die, or suicide, or, this kind of it's really kind of disturbing shit, man. I've been saying this for a few years. Like, damn, man, our generation or the generation coming up is really depressed and really doesn't want to live. And then all of a sudden, overnight, hey, man, I don't want to go to war. I want to live, motherfucker. And
Like,
I'm
everything about this
thank
just
God
seemed,
for that,
Everything about this just seems so mired in media spin.
Oh, it was a very.
I mean,
much
to the
so.
core. Like, do you remember how, after Soleimani was killed or Iranian George Clooney, we'll call him, how after he died,
It's perfect.
They kept and it wasn't just one party; it was all networks were spinning it this way that Iran is the World Bank for terrorism,
Right.
and all this. And I remember thinking that if you know anything about geopolitics, you're like, no, it's not, because Iran is a Shia state. They're like the one Shia state, really. Like,
Right.
every terrorist group we've been at war with for the last 30 years, whether it was the Taliban, whether it was Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, they're all Sunni groups. I'm like,
different.
They hate, those guys in Iran hate each other more than either of us hates America or
Right.
Israel or anyone.
Or vice versa, right, man. And I think a lot of Americans don't understand that divide between the Sunnis and the Shiites.
They really don't,
man. No.
because I think
It's hardcore.
people are just kind of have become so, have such a simple way of thinking that we think, well, shit, they're just from that part of the world. They all think the same
Right.
about us.
Right.
Which you're like, no, there's a huge divide. Like, those guys hate each other more than anybody.
More than they hate Israel, more than, just like you just said, more than us. I mean, yeah.
And so when they were trying to say that, I think it was Mike Pence who got on Twitter and started saying that Iran was a backer of 9/11, and I'm like,
no, they weren't.
you fucking dumbass. It's like, I can safely tell you that Iran did not fund Osama bin Laden.
Which tells me one of two things. Either Mike Pence is a true dumb shit,
Yeah.
or he straight up lied.
And we all know the real people who funded it were Saudi Arabia, who are one of our greatest allies in the area for some reason.
To your point, which is worse? Is it better for him to be a dumbass, or is it better for him to be a liar?
Liar. I don't know, man. That's a question for the
God,
ages
that's
right
a
there.
real question.
That is a question for the ages, man. I mean, really, do you want to be lied to, or you want to dumb shit in the vice presidency? Which apparently everybody wants to be president now, given the impeachment circus that we just had. I know we were going to talk about that some. Do you think they'll ever... Let me ask you guys, once again, picking on the left, and I love the left, man. Like I say, I believe in civil rights. I believe in good working conditions. I don't believe in child labor. I believe in universal health care. That's my big far right. I think we should, I think if you're sick, you
Far
should...
left.
Oh, excuse me, far left. Thank you, thank you. That's one of my biggest issues. So I'm not a Trumper per se,
Right.
but just to kind of, I guess, full circle it back around, this whole impeachment thing. Do you think that the left's... What I'm trying to say is, which do you think is going to happen first? Do you think the rapture is going to happen for the right, or do you think impeachment is going to happen for the left?
Well,
Which one's going to happen first, guys?
My
Speaking
opinion,
of big questions.
my opinion anyway, which just take this for what it's worth, but I've been of the opinion that the goal of these whole impeachment proceedings all along wasn't actually to get Trump put out of office.
No,
because when you go look, and we have a real short memory, that when you look back at all the criticism that was thrown at Trump, the story has evolved almost by the month.
Oh, good Lord,
Like,
man.
it started off that he was in league with white nationalists,
Right.
and that with him in the office, Steve Bannon was running the show. That was the original complaint.
Right.
Then it was that that Vladimir Putin had tapes of him pissing on hookers,
yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Then it was, I don't even know. It's evolved so much into all this Russiagate stuff where the story has just changed almost by the week at this point. And then all of a sudden it became, all of the past impeachment trials we had, like Clinton, for example, that one was a little easier to explain or understand. It was that, okay, he got a blowjob in the Oval Office and he lied to the public about it. The average person on the street could understand what the charges were. With this one,
and he even got disbarred. He can't practice law anymore. Yes.
With this particular one, everything about it was so convoluted. It was something involving Joe Biden and Ukraine that, like, the average person on the street couldn't even understand.
No, man, you couldn't connect the dots. I mean, it was just so all over the place.
So my theory about, like, that the goal was never to get him thrown out. It's all a long game for the 2020 election to plant the idea into voters' minds that Trump is getting away with crimes.
So let me ask
That's
you,
all it's about, I think.
do you think this long game is being played out right, though? Because I'm actually thinking that he's going to come out of this stronger
I
than
think,
going in.
Yeah, I think that they've jumped the shark at this point. I mean, I've used that term multiple times because we almost have to talk about the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a circus, and kind of talking about Pence a little bit ago, as far as is he just a dumb shit or is he a liar? A little bit of both. I think it's probably a little bit of both, to be completely honest with you. Do people really want this son of a bitch as president? I hate to tell you, man, but Trump is not as hardcore right wing as a lot of people try to make him out to be. Truth be told, he was a New York Democrat for most of his life, and he definitely has some left leaning, what's the word I'm looking for? Viewpoints. He really does. If you talk or hear some of the stuff he said in the past, he's not as hardcore. He just doesn't know how to speak, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think the
or
proof,
he speaks too real. He speaks too gutter.
The proof of what's really going on is in the inherent insincerity of a lot of this, because if they were really trying to impeach him, there's probably a number of things that they could have
for real
brought him up for over the last 3 years. I mean, the guy, I personally don't think he's any better or worse than anybody we've had over the last 60 years, if we're being totally honest. But there's probably a number of things you could have thrown him out of office for, but the thing that they pick is, picking on this Beltway establishment goon and his connections to Ukraine. It's like, no, you went over the line when you fucked with Joe Biden.
Yeah, that was it, man. That was the line in the sand, as they say.
I mean, that just shows everything to me, I think.
They show their hand. Is what they did. And just kind of going back to that whole, like, the Pizzagate thing that we talked about earlier, why is it that a certain group of people will absolutely think that there's no way that this kind of stuff can happen, but will preach Russiagate from the top of the mountains and then have the gall to call the other side conspiracy theorists? Once again, man, the double standard scares me. And just talking, kind of going back to society in general right now, the Redskins versus Cowboys, as I always call it, that's what worries me more than anything right now, is how you're a conspiracy theorist, you believe in Pizzagate, but Russiagate, on the other hand, oh man, that's legit. There's nothing wrong with that.
Which, and the thing about it is, like, I don't mean to exalt Russia or anything like that, because the Russian government is really interesting, because there's no government like it in the world anywhere right now.
Thank God.
It's like,
thank God, yeah, seriously.
I mean, it's not communist, it's not democratic. It's sort of, it's almost close to a cross between organized crime and something else, because really what it is all of these guys who, when the Soviet Union fell, all of these, this upper echelon of the KGB that Putin was a part of, they all said, okay, now that the walls are crumbling down around us, let's make ourselves rich, let's make ourselves the upper class. And they all do, all these oligarchs do favors for each other.
Exactly.
And, you can live in Russia and live a totally fine life, but when you cross that political line and start, fucking with these guys in the media or anything, you're going to have hell to pay.
Hell yeah, man.
And a big part of
mafia.
Yeah, and a big part of what they do is they work in blackmail.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like the air of everything going on like has almost a Cold War feel to it when all the Russian propaganda was going on, but I think all of this against Trump is just, it's really ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I believe at this point it's, once again, I guess the name of this show ought to be The Left Jumps the Shark, because it's really what it feels like. Well, guys, speaking of this show, we're about an hour in. I think this would be a good time to end the show for now.
Let me ask you a quick question before we go to a commercial. Did you have fun during the Area 51 raid?
I did, actually, man. I had a blast. I really wish more would have come from it.
Were you the guy doing the Naruto run?
Yes, that was me, brother. I really wanted them to do something, man. I love the Area 51 stuff. That is like one of my favorite conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Once again, it just kind of fizzled out, man. I was really disappointed in all these people. I was really disappointed. I thought they would come out. But, guys, I'll tell you what, we're actually not going to do a commercial. We're actually going to go ahead and end the show for now. But we're going to have a part 2 of this thing coming up in about a week, 2 weeks, just whenever. We're coming back. We're coming right back. But for the people out there listening, we're going to take a break. We can't give you too much good news at once, man. We got to spread this bad boy out. It's a lot to take in. And this first hour,
for all y'all out there in TV land, because people watch YouTube on TV now.
See, now, you know what, Reverend? Now that's going to be a whole new country. We're going to have to hit the stop button before we get into that one, because I got a whole lot to say about that, which you can listen to on the Weekly Wrestling Wrap-Up or on the podcast with Jason and Mike, which I hope you guys are out there being able to catch as well. So, Reverend, Kara, we're going to go ahead and stop for now. We're going to give the people out there about a week or two to
process all this.
to process all this in. We're going to come back. So, guys, we're going to be back in a couple weeks. So, anything you want to end this segment with, Kara?
Dear Lord, I hope that we just survive the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, hopefully.
Unscathed, with no controversies or conspiracies or bombings or shootings or...
We're going to stop right there, Kara. Reverend, anything you'd like to end this show with?
Wrap it.
All right. Once again, we'll be back in a couple weeks.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. The broadcasters of your area, in voluntary cooperation with the FCC and other authorities, have developed this system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency. If this had been an actual emergency, you would have been instructed where to tune in your area for news and official information. This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.